Okay.
Can you see my slides?
Yes. Let me just introduction here. Hello, welcome everybody. We are you are at the KMCDC November 2022 community meeting, our monthly meeting, and today we have a wonderful speaker, Mr. Randhir Pushpa, and he is a very experienced knowledge practitioner and teacher and leader. And we're delighted to have him with us today to speak about the future of knowledge management. So we're very excited. Please take it away. I'll shut up now.
Thanks. Thank you, Tara. And good evening, folks. I'm Dr. Randhir Pushpa, and I work on knowledge management for the past 20 years. Yes, I've been working on knowledge management, did my PhD also in this area. So today I'm going to talk about what is the future, what the future entails for knowledge management. I think Brett was there last time when I talked in the Knowledge Management Society, so it will be a repeat for him, but hopefully for rest of you, it will be something new that we'll be sharing. So I'll let me start my session by talking about, by sharing something that I heard from Stan. So we conduct at Acies Innovations, we conduct these thought leadership sessions, and we had Stan talking about knowledge management, and we asked him, what do you think? What is the future of knowledge management? So I liked the way he responded. He said the core will not change. It will remain the same. So essentially what you do with knowledge management is not going to change. You will be focusing on knowledge sharing, collaboration, reuse, creating new knowledge. The essence of KM is not going to change. So what we are doing today, we will be doing the same thing tomorrow with respect to the basics. So basics are not going to change at all. And that will remain the same how much our game is technology is changing, because that is what happens with knowledge. It's basically happens naturally with knowledge. You share knowledge when you're finding it difficult. You create new knowledge when you're hitting a challenge or acquire knowledge, right? I mean, or you reuse knowledge in a systematically manner, and that is where that takes you to the automation journey. So essentially, the challenges with knowledge or the way you work with knowledge is not going to change. How you are going to work with knowledge is going to change. And this is something interesting I felt when I listened to Stan. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. The basics do not change. Okay, how you deliver that, how you deliver KM related requirements or needs of knowledge management is going to change. Okay, so with this I would like to start the session. And so if you ask me the future of KM, future is very interesting and very promising. And there was a podcast that I attended, and I was asked a question on what happened before and after pandemic. So one of the good things that happened, I mean, pandemic was a problem. It disrupted the way we work. And one good thing that has happened with respect to the pandemic disruption was that there is a lot of adoption of KM that is happening. Organizations and companies started appreciating the importance of KM, and this is going to continue because of the hybrid kind of work. So future of KM, if you ask me, is very promising and very interesting. But will it happen? Will the future be promising and continue like that? That is the question that we need to answer. And we are all responsible to make the future promising. I'll explain what I mean as I go forward. So before we jump into understanding the future, what are those elements in the future that we are looking into? Let me first dig into the basics. And this you should be clear that it is not going to change at all. This will remain the same. Okay, so the need to identify and safeguard critical knowledge. This is not going to change at all. Your organization will be using knowledge, leveraging knowledge. Organization competitiveness will always depend on what it knows or what it can acquire and what it can apply easily. It's very difficult to replace knowledge, will continue to be very important for it because that defines its core competency. And as a knowledge manager, you are the one who will be responsible for that, no one else. not HR, not operations, not delivery team, but knowledge managers. You will have to focus on identifying what are those critical knowledge that is important for my organization survival, and how do I ensure that that is captured, safeguarded, archived, updated regularly. That is your role, and that is not going to change. And that is something knowledge management will continue doing it. And that is something organizations will need on a regular basis, because what are with the changes in the way organizations function? This is critical. No, this piece is very important. Second is making this knowledge easily accessible. Okay, so it's not only important that you capture all this information, but how do you make it accessible to them? Right? I mean, you can come and store document. You can identify most relevant information knowledge across the organization. Do different types of checklist analysis to find out whether this is critical or not, this is important or not. Now, once you store it, once you make it available, be that in the form of tacit or explicit knowledge, what is equally important is how do I make it easily accessible and available for folks to consume it? And that not only means capturing and storing, but that also means how you're going to capture what the way the document content gets structured, right? I mean, if you how do you ensure that the content is structured so that people can read it easy? So that is another piece that is not going to go away. Wherever, whenever, whichever year you want to look into it, capturing and ensuring that the relevant knowledge is available. And it is going to be more and more important because the number of knowledge workers across the world is increasing. Third is, so second, I was talking more on the explicit knowledge part. Third is on more on the tacit knowledge part, right? I mean, how do you ensure knowledge flow across the organization? How do you ensure that you bring people together easily and ensure that knowledge from experts flow across the organization, right? This is becoming more and more relevant as people become, as the organization becomes more distributed as compared to what it was earlier. So facilitate easy tacit knowledge sharing and collaboration across. This is another basic that is not going to change. Fourth one is creation of new knowledge, be that through insights, after action reviews, project completion reviews, mid reviews. This is not going to change. You will have to, knowledge management will have to facilitate creation of new knowledge. Regularly improving the processes, regularly through efficiency improvement, effectiveness improvement. So generating new knowledge is going to be the same. This will be another basic that we'll have to focus on. Then reuse of knowledge, one of the most critical part, which at times, though it's a basic, in many organizations I've not seen this being done in a process-driven manner, but reuse of knowledge. You're capturing knowledge, you're safeguarding it, but how do I reuse knowledge? How do I institutionalize knowledge so that the knowledge becomes important, knowledge gets consumed in the organization? So this is another basic, and this is not going to change, right? So other than that, there are some other elements that are there. I've not mentioned it here, but this people can call it as basics of knowledge management, and there's no debate on that, like knowledge transfer, institutionalization of knowledge, and all that. So, what I want trying to highlight is that your basics don't change at all. The basics remain the same. Now, how you deliver these basics is going to change drastically, and it has been changing. Okay, you must have seen the way it is happening. So what is changing? The change that is happening is move to hybrid and virtual working, and this is a big change. I mean, before pandemic itself, we had all the technologies for virtual working to happen, but organizations were not willing to let go employees sit at wherever they want and work because of multiple reasons, including their inability to manage teams with which can sit virtually. So the challenge is not with respect to technology and employees' ability to work. The challenge is with respect to the managers' work to manage that kind of knowledge, because they have to evolve that kind of skill sets where I can manage my employees sitting at different locations. Okay. So, but what is happening is that the hybrid and virtual working will continue to happen. It is not going to stop, because one is we realize that it can help us work. So there will be a combination of it. It may not be completely virtual. That is why that hybrid kind of a term got coined, and this is going to be the norm now. Hyper distribution of organizations across geographies. Now, when you can work virtually, the next question is, why can't you source across the world, source the talent across the world? And this is going to happen. So the next big thing that is going to, and it's already happening, the way the work is happening is that it's highly distributed. People from any part of the world can come together and sit and work. So hyper distribution of work across geography is happen, and this is going to be a big disruptor, because you will be comfortable working with person sitting across any part of the world. The time zone is the only challenge that will be there. Otherwise, work folks with from different parts of the world, or work will be distributed in different parts of the world. Increased acceptance of freelancing gig workers. This is another major disruption happening. Organizations are more and more depending upon freelance workers, gig workers. One of the best good thing that happened as a result of pandemic is that a lot of folks who could not come and work in office because of their family pressures, family related expectations that were there, they started working. I can see in my team itself, in Acies Innovations, we have a lot of folks who have to be there at home and who cannot come out of home, and we were happy to hire them because that also worked with our business model. So we've got a lot of ladies who joined us, who have been working, who could not, who are very talented but could not work because of family, taking care of the kids and all these things, and they started joining the work. And this is going to happen, and these talents will be, organization will start opening to all those talents, and we'll get a lot of gig workers coming into the organization. Your percentage of gig workers will increase, contract workers will increase a lot. Moonlighting will become common. I don't know how common, or the relevance of moonlighting and how big it's becoming a big issue for corporates in US, but I can see here in Bangalore that moonlighting has been considered as one of the issues in the organization, and leadership teams are focusing on bringing down moonlighting. Moonlighting is essentially employees taking up two jobs. So you are in a contract with an organization saying that you will be working for them full time, but then you take up additional jobs, and this is becoming a big challenge. But again, like with the trend that you're seeing with hybrid working, virtual working, moonlighting will be common. It will not come down. It will continue. Okay, your whole concept of full-time employees working full-time for you is completely slowly going off. And this is one interesting thing, and I really like the way things are going in the work area for organization. So the power locus is moving towards the employees. So earlier the employers were powerful. Now you'll see the employees becoming powerful, and this trend is not going to go. The employees will become more and more powerful. They will demand in the organization where they want to work, how they want to work, when they want to work. Knowledge workers who are very intelligent will become more powerful. They will demand how things should happen, and this is not going to change how much our organizations would like to see the other way. So the power of employees is going to be higher and higher. There's an article on McKinsey on this, on how this is going to change the way we work. Unprecedented automation adoption of technology. This is another very interesting thing that is happening now. As if you see the way automation happens, automation is a result of continuous improvement, where your complex work, you learn more and more about your complex work and make it complicated and simple, and then you get into the automation journey. Okay, now earlier it was handled by employees or human beings on identifying patterns and making them more easy to perform through using machines and all that. Now machines themselves are trying to identify patterns and trying to automate this entire thing. So you will see that automation will become much more prominent across the organization. For example, if you use Microsoft 365, you will see, if you go into the Power BI piece and get into that element, you will see that process advisors, or you'll have some different applications being set up there, which can help you in automating your processes. There's a company in Israel that has, some time back I was reading about them, and they've come out with solutions you can set up in your systems, and it will keep on looking at what you're working on. and it will look into whether there is a pattern in which you are working. It will come and tell you that, okay, this is something I can automate for you. You can look into more complex work. So I will not say it's a red flag. I would say it is making human beings more and more work or focus on what they have been designed to work on. And what will happen is that your knowledge work will become more common, because machines will be taking up all those automated and the minimalistic AI related stuff that can be done, but the knowledge work will become more and more common. So your knowledge worker, you will find more and more knowledge workers across the world as compared to the manual or your what do you call that, simple kind of work being handled by human beings. So this is what is changing essentially to a large extent from my understanding, because I am also predicting what can be the future. Now, in this entire thing, what is the role of technology? Okay, so technology is changing, and definitely whatever I am talking about has been enabled by technology. There is no doubt about it. Technology is playing a major role. Okay, and as we say, what we should keep one thing in mind, okay, about technology. This you should, whenever as a knowledge manager, you should always be aware of this. Technology changes happen where there is a market possibility. Technology changes doesn't happen because it has to enable growth in a field, right? Those kind of interventions or the intervention that is socially driven happens from government only. But in KM area, there is no government intervention happening. It's only technology companies working to look into the opportunities and leverage the opportunities. So always keep in mind, when the technology is evolving, it is evolving because there is a market for it, not because there is that KM can grow in that area. So technology changes are market driven, and new technology will based on opportunities. Always keep that in mind. Now let's look into the technology part. What is happening on technology, and then we'll get into the impact on KM as a result of all these things. I would like to highlight some areas where technology changes are happening in the next couple of slides, but let's look into some of the critical elements, and then we'll go into each of these pieces a bit more. Content creation. Now, content creation has always been a pain, and it has been a pain in the service engineering related, help desk related areas and all that. The service desk and all that, people resolve a ticket and they move on. So there is no content creation that is happening, and this has been always been a big challenge. Now, there are tools that are coming up that can intuitively look into what content is getting created and then come out with content creation. They can bring up different pieces together, and they can create content for you. They can create abstracts for you. And we may question, okay, we may say that, okay, tools cannot create content like that, but no. One thing that we have learned is that you cannot underestimate technology, the growth of technology. The technology may be very weak right now with respect to content creation, but it is fast improving, and which is good for knowledge management, because we always struggled with content creation. If you look into the knowledge management piece, there is a supply and demand part of it. We've been focusing on the supply part, and demand has been low. But in the supply part itself, we will only focus on what is available. The content creation part has always been a weak area, and that is one area that will grow a lot. Okay. Connecting employees. Connecting employees is another area that is picking up. It is not picked up the way we are hoping, but it is definitely picking up, where tools can connect employees with each other. Tools will know who is looking for what is the kind of knowledge people are looking for, or where is the knowledge lacuna for a person, and automatically connect people with each other from a sharing and collaboration perspective. So you'll find more and more tools coming into this area, though that market is not big enough, so you'll not see many innovation happening in that area. But connecting employees with each other is another big thing that is happening from a technology and AI driven perspective. Content findability and access. This is, I would say, the area where most of the innovation is happening. It is not only content findability, but content being pushed to the employees, insights being built. So we are going away from the era of search engine, and now we are only talking about insight engines. So in search engines are now old technologies, what people say. Insight engines are not only looking into searching, but providing you insights based on what you've been searched and giving you next decision. So if you look into Google search and all that, it's not plain vanilla results that you get. You get suggestions. You get Quora kind of a feel of question and answers that is coming up, right? So the search is completely changing. So content being delivered to you is also changing. And I talked a bit about here on this here, but I would like to highlight it separately. So more knowledge is getting generated because of the changes that is happening. The pace in which knowledge is getting generated is much higher as you compare with the earlier times because of technology. You have technology that can be leveraged to create knowledge at a much faster pace. Definitely the depth of knowledge that is created may not be the way human beings create. For example, your Amazon recommendation engine, it recommends. It has been designed for something with respect to say helping themselves, but it is doing its job. Does it do all these things? No, it doesn't. But it is helping generate insight into the buying behavior much faster than human beings can do it. So from a breadth of it, it is able to do it, not from the depth. Depth, no machines. I don't think technology has reached to that level of questioning human beings. Okay, some more time let me spend here. I have talked about already about this part. So the technology changes with one of the key areas where we can see technology coming up is search related improvements. So your knowledge graphs, insight engines are becoming more common. Customized content delivery. This is going to be a big thing now as we go forward. Uh, so see, if you look into the way things are evolving, right? I mean, we inside the organization, outside the organization, we have the choice whether to leave a digital footprint or not. But inside the organization, it is also driven by the organization policies, whether I leave my digital footprint or not. So the organization knows, the tools knows what you're working on, what you worked and failed, what is your capability, what was your performance appraisal last time, which areas you're weak, which areas you're strong, right? So that based on these deep knowledges, these are all information about your skill sets, your knowledge that the organization has got. Based on that, it will be able to deliver your content. That we have not reached that element, but we'll soon reach. So that when you're going to meet a client tomorrow, the tool will come and tell you, okay, these are some learnings that you have, or these are some training program that you have to undertake, and bit size trainings. Okay, that will be 10 minutes training or 5 minutes training that you need to take because you're going to meet this client. So the tool knows that. That is where we are getting into. Okay, digital assistance. This is going to be big time stuff. Digital assistance for everyone. Each employee having their own assistant, which is already there. We have reached there, but it is not evolved to the way it has to evolve within the organization. But it is. I mean, the technology is there, and we should be seeing that becoming more and more efficient and effective in becoming a proper digital assistant for each and every employee. I talked about content creation, sharing and collaboration, and process automation. Okay, so this is where we are getting into it. But as I told you earlier, the challenge that is there is technology doesn't cover everything. For example, identifying and safeguarding critical knowledge. This is the basics of knowledge management, but do you have technology there? No, not much, limited. Creating relevant information, making it available. Do you have technology there? Yes, big time research is happening, big time product launches left and right that is happening. Facilitate easy tacit knowledge sharing collaboration. Yes, this saw the maximum development in pandemic. Organizations like Zoom became generic names. You have everyone scrambling with different kinds of products and solutions. You see left and right now, you becoming more and more common with new tools like Miro and all that, because the industry is big time in these two areas. Do you have technology in this area generating new knowledge, innovative ideas through interventions? No. You have inside building engines, but they are not actually doing what you're expected to do from a KM perspective. Reuse of knowledge, do you have technology? It is not there. So if you see technology growth is happening here only, but as a knowledge manager, all these elements are critical for you, not only these two elements. So you can see where you as an intelligent knowledge manager should ensure and leverage technology. So What I would like to say is that is technology a devil or a angel? It depends on us. Okay, but left on its own, my take is technology hijacked the KM movement. It hijacked it big time the past 10 15 20 years, and it gave a narration that which is being accepted by organizations, thinking that okay, I can buy a technical tool and then I'm done with KM and all these things. As knowledge managers, we know that no, technology only forms 20% of the solution. 80% which is your change management, your interventions. But for thanks to the narration given by KM by the technology companies, your leadership team thinks that okay, technology, if I license a technology, my 90% of my KM is done, then I just need to have one knowledge manager which I can pull out from one of the teams and ask him, make him or her a knowledge manager, and that's it, I've taken care of. No. So technology, you have to intelligently handle technology and you have to educate, because technology in knowledge management is only 20%. Rest is knowledge management interventions, change management, and whatever you want to do with respect to KM in these areas. So what does it mean for knowledge management in the when in the new world? I've talked about how change is happening, how changes are happening. So what does it mean for knowledge management in this changed world, right? Sharing and collaboration and flow of tacit knowledge. This is going to be a big challenge as we go forward. Okay. Now, one thing you should keep in mind is that because of COVID, what happened was that you are in a physical setup. From the physical setup, you moved into a virtual setup. In the physical setup provided you a lot of services, which we didn't realize it. Okay, there were informal setups, informal networks created, right? You had those coffee corners where people can come and talk to each other. All these things, your physical setup was the informal grapevines were flowing because there were informal channels for that. Now, with your virtual setup, those are broken. So sharing and collaboration will become a challenge, and that becomes a so in the physical setup that happened naturally, but in a virtual setup that becomes a role of the knowledge manager to ensure that your sharing and collaboration happens and flow of tacit knowledge happens in a proper manner. Sharing and collaboration with gig workers. Now, gig workers is going to be a big thing in organizations. Organizations will have more and more gig workers coming into the organization, and they will be defining the way organizations work is being done. So how are you promoting sharing and collaboration with your permanent employees, with the gig workers? How do you make gig workers share their information knowledge? And even more difficult, how do you capture the best practices and the insights built by the gig worker, the critical knowledge that the gig workers generate, right? I mean, they may not have a sense of responsibility. They don't have to give their knowledge that they're generating, right? So how do you go and how we are going to leverage these gig workers? Safeguarding critical and knowledge and operational knowledge. This is another challenge that is going to come. Now, when the organization is distributed across the world, how are you going to safeguard those critical knowledge that is getting generated? How will you keep track of this critical knowledge that is getting generated? Okay, that is going to be another big challenge for knowledge management, and this will be another focus area. Institutionalization of knowledge. Now, always be aware of this. Okay, the organization gets benefited from knowledge only when it gets institutionalized, and institutionalization would be knowledge getting embedded into the processes, into the tools, into the checklists, as well as the broad employee capabilities. That is when an organization knowledge gets institutionalized, and this will become a big challenge when the organization becomes distributed. When the in the future of organization, this is going to happen. So what it means is that the learning pace of the organization will come down. The pace in which you're learning, pace in which you are the new knowledge gets embedded into the organization will drastically go down. So unless and who we become more responsible here, because we have to ensure that the organization learns faster. It is not the role of the L&D team. L&D team focuses only on the employees. Be aware of that. We look into the as knowledge managers. We ensure that the organization learns. L&D teams looks into the way the employees learn. But our focus is how do I make my organization learn faster, institutionalize that knowledge. That no other team looks other than the KM team, and that is the responsibility of KM team. Now, the next part is higher dependency on documented knowledge. And this happened, if you look into the dependency on documented knowledge, uh, before COVID, right? I mean, while we had all the repositories and all that, the traffic to the repositories were not as much as we are seeing now, because all the lines or the channels through which employees used to get their information knowledge were very well defined due to the physical setup. Because of pandemic, when people started working from home and all these things, their channels got cut off, right? So they started falling back on the documented knowledge. So the traffic to the repositories increased. But unfortunately, what happened was that I'm not saying all the organizations, but many of the organizations, the documents were not properly tagged, no proper taxonomy, search engines were not enabled, and that resulted in a lot of issues. Okay, but you will see that now so organizations will have to start looking into how do they ensure that all the documents are available, the audits are done, so that, because you will see more and more dependency on documented knowledge increasing, your repository will see more and more traffic coming. So you have the added responsibility of ensuring that your documented knowledge is there. And now the last point that I would like to highlight is the challenges in creating new knowledge. See, knowledge gets created when people meet each other, they're co-located or informally interact, right? Now, informal interaction in a virtual setup doesn't happen that regularly. You will not just like that go and sit with people just for a chat and all that. You will only meet with each other for the working related stuff. So your need or the chances of creating knowledge, okay, informally or interact through interactions or brainstorming is coming down. So that is another area that you'll have to focus a lot on, and this becomes another key area for you to focus on from a knowledge management perspective. So I would like to just reiterate some of the elements uh, in the future of game that is going to be important for you. Facilitating sharing and collaboration across the organization because the employees are distributed, and sharing and collaboration with gig workers, leveraging the critical knowledge that they are creating, the best practices that they are creating, safeguarding critical knowledge and operational knowledge, institutional of knowledge. So that is another element that is becoming important. And your documented knowledge. The traffic towards repositories is increasing and it will keep on increasing. Your gig workers will need information. Your gig workers will need information. You'll see a lot of traffic coming from them because they're new. They will want to learn from that and then take it up. So that will become important. Challenges in creating new knowledge. Okay, these are becoming important. And one more element I would like to highlight here is confidentiality. How do I ensure my content is confidentially stored, because my gig workers are coming in? They would like to access information, knowledge with respect to the work, but they should not be accessing my confidential information. So how do I ensure? So these are the elements that you will start focusing more and more and more. And vis-a-vis considering your area of focus. You'll have to give me a few seconds. Just go on. Yeah, I'm back. So another topic that I would like to talk about we till now we looked into what is happening in the future of game, what are those changes with respect to technology that is happening, what is the expectation from the knowledge managers. Now I'd like to talk about another huge disruption that is happening, and that will happen. Companies are betting big time on this. Okay, that is metaverse. And if you have not read about it, I would suggest please go and read about it. What is future of work? Okay, read more on future of work. What is going to happen in future of work? I'll share a bit about it. I will not spend much because I myself am trying to figure out what is going to happen with metaverse. But what some of the key elements that is going to happen is virtual and physical is merging. Okay, so for example, I take a phone, I make a phone call to my team member. Okay, immediately getting into a virtual kind of setup, I get into a meeting and come out of it. So I get into the virtual setup where everything is 2D. Soon in the metaverse, you'll have a 3D setup. Everybody will be sitting together and working. So you may be sitting in Mexico, you may be sitting in Bangalore, you may be sitting anywhere in the world. But once you get into a meeting, all of you are together. Okay. So you will be able to see each other sitting together and working with each other in a physical, in a virtual setup, which will look like and feel like a physical setup, right? And that is what is going to happen with metaverse. Now, so your physical and virtual is going to merge. So when I was telling you that the physical spaces were giving you some services, soon your virtual setup will give you the same services, right? And that is going to be a huge change. So you right now what is happening is that it may be like your organization has got mm, branches across the world, okay, and people sitting in different parts of the world working on space on specific areas. In the physical world you may not have any branches at all. Everybody will be working in one single place itself. So you may have one single virtual avatar of your organization like a physical building, okay, and or your entire organization sitting and working there. This is the kind of setup that is coming. Okay, we are just imagining, we are just thinking, nothing is finalized, nothing is freezed up, but there is a frantic pace in which organizations are working towards sitting, building this metaverse. So you can see Facebook kind of took a bet on this and they're focusing on building a huge metaverse. And basically, the whole fight is towards who is going to call the shots in the metaverse, right? So Facebook bet big time, and they are worried whether they went a bit early on this, but it is going to be the norm. Okay, probably we are in 2022, and in the 2030s, this may be the norm where your metaverse is where all the work happens. So essentially, you may not have a physical building, or you may have only a physical building in one corner of the world, and rest everything happens in the virtual space, right? It is the kind of disruption that our kids will be working on. Kids will be working on. So you'll be sitting at your work with all the technology, gadgets, and all these things, and you'll have your work avatar going to the office and sitting and working and coming out. So that is what is going to happen in this metaverse. Now, what does that mean for knowledge management? And again, I'm just trying to see what can be there. As I said, everyone in one place, so no matter where you are, this is a big thing. So your expert who is sitting in US and working, and me sitting in Bangalore, sitting physically separated, in the metaverse we will be sitting together itself. So probably if the time zones allow and we both try to sacrifice some of our family time, we may be ending up working together for 9 hours, sitting together, talking to each other. So think about it. Your entire organization having one physical setup, your experts, everyone working in one single place. Okay, so your knowledge sharing and collaboration will be excellent, right? I mean, as a knowledge manager, you cannot ask for more than that. Learnings will be much faster, easier. So if you remember that there was a movie, Terminator Judgment Day, where Schwarzenegger walks into a club and then he looks at people and then all the statistics comes out, right? And the same way you work in the metaverse, all your statistics of each person keep coming out. What is this person working on another? I'm just imagining what is possible. There are much more things that will be possible beyond what I'm trying to say, but this is going to be a huge disruptor going forward. Okay, and so I would suggest you keep reading about it. Definitely, it is not going to impact now from a KM perspective or from a work perspective, because still it is on the early stages. Okay, but you should be able to see that in a few years time frame. I'm saying 2030, but you never know, it may be much before that also. So what does that mean in the end? What does it mean? Technology evolving, everything is evolving. Your basics doesn't change. For example, when I talked about metaverse also, I didn't go about newer ways of managing knowledge or newer needs that is coming up. No, your basics don't change. So that you be always clear. As a knowledge manager, stay grounded. Your basics don't change at all. You don't think so tomorrow I have to forget about knowledge sharing and collaboration. I don't have to focus on that. No, your basics don't change. You have to create a culture of sharing and collaboration. It becomes more challenging because you have to create a culture of sharing and collaboration with the gig workers. You have to come out with ways to enable the gig workers share their knowledge with their knowledge, while ensuring that you don't lose out your critical or your confidential information to them. So your role remains the same. The flavor of it changes, right? I mean, the focus areas changes. So essentially, this is what I would like to say. So the future of KM, if you're asking me, Okay, future of KM is interesting and promising, extremely interesting, extremely promising. Okay, but what you should do as a knowledge manager, first and foremost, you stay focused on your basics. Okay, there is no change in your basics, and this doesn't change at all, as I keep reiterating. Okay, what you're doing from knowledge management, how you're helping the business, be clear about it, your basics. Now keep on the lookout for leveraging technology, but technology is changing extremely fast. Okay, technology is changing fast, and you don't go when the technology is changing. Okay, you do not be completely get overwhelmed with technology. Stay grounded, understand what this technology is, and understand whether I can leverage it or not. Talk to your CIO. Okay, and also ensure that CIO is not the decision maker. You are the decision maker with respect to technology for knowledge management. Stay grounded, work with your CIO, ensure that you are getting the right information on what technology is there and how you are going to leverage it. Okay, and your role is changing. I mean, it has been changing drastically, and it will keep on changing. You are no more a plain vanilla knowledge manager. You have to be a techno knowledge manager with deep idea about what is happening with technology, how we can leverage technology, as well as you have to always be aware of what is the business needs of the organization. Where is the business taking? What does the business need? So this is technology, knowledge management, business. These three combination is what is critical, and what that is where you have to take things forward. So I was reading somewhere, it said that now everybody is a technology expert. Okay, if you're not a technology expert, you're gone. So understand how much ever you hate technology, you'll have to start loving it, because technology is there, but you have to be on top of it. You have to ensure that technology is embraced on your terms as a knowledge manager, not on technology's terms. Because if that happens, again, technology will take you for a ride. So what I want to say, if you ask me what the future of KM is bright. Knowledge management basics don't change, but you have to be proactive within the organization. It is not the CIO who takes the call. It is you who takes the call with respect to what knowledge, how KM should be practiced, how knowledge should be leveraged. Why I'm saying that is because unless you do that, organization will not be able to get the best out of the knowledge management interventions, or get the best out of knowledge, and they will suffer. And when they suffer, the blame comes on knowledge management. The knowledge management is not effective. So future belongs to knowledge management, but whether it belongs to KM, knowledge management, not depends upon you, how you're going to manage knowledge. So this is my talk on future of knowledge management. Thank you. Tara, over to you.
Wow. I was kind of not thinking about the metaverse until you discussed it. So now I'm like, oh, I got to start thinking about that now. And oh my God, how things have changed so fast. It's amazing. Are there any questions, Randhir?
Tara, there are a few questions in the
In the
Q&A chat. Okay. So there is a question from Karen. Is SharePoint the main tool for safeguarding critical knowledge and operational knowledge? See, don't overestimate SharePoint. Okay? Don't overestimate anything. Okay. SharePoint is the tool for storing content. SharePoint can store content. It has got very good permission levels so that you can manage permission and access to content at multiple levels. Yes, you can set up your power platforms like your Power Automate and all these things to decide when to update the content, set up good applications on top of SharePoint. But it is only a tool. It is a very evolved tool, more evolved than your Google workspace, much ahead in the race towards being the best knowledge management tool as compared to any other tool in the industry right now. So if you ask me, Microsoft 365, SharePoint is only a part of it. Be aware of it. It's the whole piece that makes it very critical. So yeah, SharePoint is a very good tool to safeguard critical knowledge and operational pledges. I think that was the only question, if I am not wrong.
That's the thing about SharePoint. If someone thinks that they got SharePoint, they have knowledge management. That's not the case.
That's not SharePoint. If you ask me, 80 to 90% of SharePoints are junkyard. They have only content being stored without any idea what. And you're just dumping content. You are not doing anything at all. And unfortunately, because of that reason, you only browse. You don't search. Browse is the behavior, not so.
Yeah, I'm a longtime SharePoint architect. I would totally agree with you. Your number there, most of it being just a dumping ground.
Well, and thing is, once there's a lot of stuff that's dumped in the SharePoint site, it's now you got to dig it out, you know. So it's one thing to have this wonderful, powerful tool. However, if you let users just kind of load up a lot of information in a very unorganized way, it becomes another repository that needs to be just cleaned out and reorganized. I mean, it's much better to have the plan ahead of time and communicate it. But because SharePoint is very powerful, but it's a beast. So many things to do.
It's huge. It's powerful. Unfortunately, only, I mean, Andy, I would like to say only a small percentage of the features in SharePoint or Microsoft 365 is being used. We are consulting for a client, and the client had huge amount of content. Okay. When we started digging into it, understanding their system, we saw that only in 1 or 2 document libraries, they had around 0.7 million documents stored. Okay. That much of document only in 1 document repository. I was surprised how they were able to handle that. So there is, this tool is amazing. Okay. But it is misused and used, probably, I would say.
So this is Karen. Is there like a primer on how to, structure the knowledge management and, in what else besides SharePoint? Obviously I'm just starting in this journey.
See, I would say when you say how to structure knowledge, right? You first start, don't even think of technology, but when you be aware of how it is to be. You start with your architecture of how you are going to store your content. What is the knowledge, where you have to stay, how you have to class bucketize it, who is going to use it. Even before touching the technology piece, be clear about it, how people use it, when do they use it, how, and then you get into the technology piece of it. Then you look into how I should structure it in a SharePoint system. So I would put it like this. If you're having SharePoint, Microsoft 365, learn about it. Once you learn about it, keep that in your mind, then get into your KM system, your entire knowledge. Try to structure it, try to see how you have to bucketize it, how the repositories that I have to create, the taxonomies I have to put. Then you get into the technology part of it. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So I have a question. So most of the time, what I've seen, especially for some of the organizations that I've worked for, is they do have like a library for projects, like a project library, wherein they have like final reports and annual reports, and mostly they're really done in line with like what the donor wants. So most times it's really mechanic writing, like a lot of theory and all, like not much substance. So, and I realized that most organizations really don't learn from these reports. So how can the change in knowledge management, how can organizations position themselves in a way that they would, in going back to the basics, how can they find value, or what do they need to change or adapt in a way that some of these little things that people might ignore, they can maybe refocus their attention there again. I don't know if the question is clear, but it's just about the value in the reports, just making sure that people really, there's value in there and it's been utilized well.
Good question. So first and foremost, keep this in mind. You have to safeguard your critical knowledge. Your project documents, everything has to be safeguarded. So what you're doing is correct. What you should also focus on, understand, is that any employee, any role has got an information knowledge requirement. How much are you aware of the different roles of your organization? Are you aware of the different roles of your organization, their information knowledge deficiency? When do they search for information? Okay, what time they search for information? What kind of information? Are you aware of that? Most of the times I've not seen any knowledge manager doing an analysis on that. Who are my customers who are looking for information knowledge? What are those information knowledge that they are consuming? Once you do this exercise, that is where that your next step of activity start. Now, information knowledge, when you go to Google, when you search for some information, if you get a 200-page document, you are not going to read that. But you're expecting your employees in your organization to do that. No, they will not do it. Because without knowing that, without applying a thought unconsciously, we are always intelligently handling our time when we are doing a search. Okay, so I am looking for an information. I will think, okay, I have an option to go to the repository and find. I have an option to go and talk to another person. I have an option to do it on my own or go to Google. Now he or she will come to the repository only if the time that this person is going to spend is spent intelligently. If I know, okay, I have to spend half an hour, but I can generate that knowledge, or I can go to Google, or I can get my repository. I will do that analysis and only then I'll go. If your system doesn't allow you to get that information very fast, that person will not come. So if you make me read a document that is 200 page or 100 page and think about it and then pull out that information knowledge, I'm not going to come there. So there are two parts to it. As a knowledge manager, you have to safeguard your knowledge, or the project document has to be stored there. But you also have to know when who is going to come and read it, what that person is going to come, and how do I present that knowledge. Interestingly, now a lot of changes are happening with respect to the search engine that is there, which not only shows you the document, but pulls out the content from the document and shows it to you. So that is where you're going to be safeguarded now. Okay, so people will start using a system because search engines will read within that document and show that only that relevant piece that they're looking for. But what you should be clear as a knowledge manager is understand what is the role of an org. What are the different roles, 10, 20, 30 key roles of the organization? What are they consuming? And set up your KM system for them. I hope I answered your question.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you.
Hey, this is Paul here. Dr. P, great presentation. I really enjoyed it, especially keeping to the basics. You can definitely get overwhelmed when it comes to KM. You can get distracted, especially with the technology part. Trust me, I'm in that situation as a KMer. I found myself spending 99% of my time doing SharePoint, managing SharePoint. So I tell my supervisor at the time, I said, I really wasn't hired to be a SharePoint administrator, but that's what I'm doing. I really wanted to focus on my KM trade craft. However, I've been drugged back into SharePoint from the back end and the front end. So I definitely like that focus on basics, because I do have to go back to my books and actually read, because I don't get an opportunity to practice my KM trade craft to stay focused on the enablers and things like that I've learned and I've practiced with also. And understanding, because I was with an organization, someone mentioned about project management. I got with an organization and I didn't know the value of their content. I didn't know what was valuable or not. So as most programs, a lot of programs, the onboarding is really not that great. So you just basically dive in and you're just tripping over everything and trying to figure out what's important. And then you're actually fighting for time, trying to find out from the key stakeholders to carve out some time to spend with you. So all those challenges are still there. trying to get, hey, I need some time with you so I can understand what the value is of what content that you're storing on this technology, and going on the back end, like you had indicated, looking for what people are searching for, leveraging the technology and going and say, what are they searching for? Let me go look in the system and say, what are they paying for? And do they know how to utilize the technology? Is what also I encounter a lot of the lack of training that you can actually provide to users. So you ask yourself, do you shoot just regular emails once a month and say, did you know that type of stuff? Because when you try to pull time to say, we don't like the word training because that takes away from what? Billable hours. So we don't like the word training. It's never good. So you have to shoot emails out and say, hey, how about you, read this really, really short. Did you know? Basically, within 10 seconds, they need to read and make a decision whether or not they want to go down that rabbit hole and read that article. So I really appreciate the opportunity to be on this and you provide this information as a refresher. It's always great attending these calls because we all have the same challenges of KM. As a professional or someone new into it, you're all going to go through the same problems, but we're all going to go through it, fight for time and trying to explain how important knowledge is. And as Dr. P indicated, we look at the organization and we're looking at organization knowledge and trying to get the holistic team to say, I'm going to contribute. I know that I see knowledge gaps because we have no knowledge what you're doing on that project. And that's a huge gap that we have and a high risk of what could go wrong when you walk away from here and we have nothing in writing. We see that all the time, but hey, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you, Paul. It's kind of interesting how the internet made us all skimmers. When I get too much text in front of me on a web page, forget it. I'm not going to read. I'm going to look for the headings. So it's kind of sad, but it's something to recognize about what has happened to us, and we need to kind of know when we have to read that entire article, or know, at least be able to pull out the important points. And problem is, not many of that, we don't have people pulling out the important points. So I guess the technology will hopefully help with that.
That's right. That's right. It is going to, technology is taking us to that lane. It is going to be of an interesting way. It is going to help us now.
Any other questions? Well, it's about time to wrap up. So I want to thank Randhir. Thank you so much for this wonderful presentation. And we're so excited that you would spend this time with us. And we will have this posted to our YouTube channel this week. Probably it won't be tonight, but I encourage everybody to look at all of the wonderful artifacts we've created for knowledge managers out there. And Randhir, thank you so much for offering your knowledge to this community. Very appreciated. And everybody, I hope I see you at the next monthly meeting. If you're on the meetup group, you'll get an invitation, and we'd love to see you again. So everybody have a great holiday weekend, and see you next month.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you for watching KMCDC's presentation. Hope to see you at the next monthly meeting.